Coffee tech break. Coffee tech break. Yeah, that's what I need. That's what I need. Coffee tech break. Coffee tech break.
Welcome back to a brand new Coffee Tech Break with Jan. Good to see you back on my channel again. I think I got another great video for you lined up, because today I want to take you through, here we go, the Studio V72 Setup and Installation. If you missed it, part 1, I took you through the unboxing, showed you the cables which inside the box, I showed you through the hardware, etc. And so in this video specifically, I want to walk you through the setup and installation. So we take it out of the box. What do? How do you update the device? What are the configuration options, etc. And it wouldn't be Coffee Jan if I'm going to do that hands-on. So I will hook it up through my laptop and I'll show you step by step what the possibilities are. So because there's different scenarios and different use cases where you can use the V72. You can use it as a BYOD device, but you still want to be able to manage it. So we're going to hook it up to PolyLens. You can hook it up to your Teams PC or to your Zoom Room PC. How do you manage it? Well, you got the PolyLens Room app, and specifically the ability to manage the device. The device itself can directly be registered to PolyLens using the network or using the Wi-Fi in the device. So I will walk you step by step through all those different options. So by the end of the video, you're gonna be completely confident to set up a Studio V72. I can only say for now, let's hook it up to my network here and show you how you can configure and set up the Studio V72. So I have here the PolyLens desktop here on my laptop, so not to confuse with the PolyLens Room app. PolyLens Room app is specifically when you got a Teams room or you got a Zoom room app, and it's running as a service underneath. With the Lens desktop app, you really have the possibility to update those V family devices, but also to update your other devices. For example, if you got a headset from Poly or you got any of those other devices, we also see docks coming soon, also able to update and to configure these types. But also the V family, like the V12, the V72, you can all hook them up to the PC, to the Lens desktop app, and make sure you can upgrade and you can configure some of the settings. Not all settings, but you can configure some of the settings. For example, to hook it up in a PolyLens via Wi-Fi, or you can configure some of the audio settings, configure some of the tracking settings, and some of the basic settings are available. If you really want to dive deep, I recommend, and also to centrally manage it, then I would recommend to hook it up to PolyLens, and there you can remotely control the devices, set up specific configuration files, etc. and makes life a lot easier. Now you can see immediately when you hook it up to the PC. So in this case, I've connected the USB-C port from the V72. I connected that here to my laptop, and it should automatically be detected by the Lens desktop app. Now what you see, it is detected here, it is connected. We don't see any IP address because it's not hooked up to Wi-Fi, it's not hooked up to the Lens. So I will do that a bit later, so you're able to see also the web interface of the V72. There you can also configure some of those settings, and also to hook it up to PolyLens. And at the end, we'll also look at the Lens Room app, if you're gonna hook it up to a Teams Room PC. Alright, so first let's look at the controls. So here, as I said, you can do some basic settings. So you can check out your video here, you can create some favorites. Of course, you can change here some like framing settings, so you can turn the framing off. If you don't want to use any framing on the camera, you can put it into group framing. We'll make sure that the group is visible within the camera. And as you know, the V72 and the X72, they got two lenses, but they make sure that they figure out what is the best shot of all the participants in the room. So that is group framing. We got speaker framing, which specifically does and the location of the speaker. That works really well. And you've got people framing, which is like you're framing up to 6 participants in the meeting room. If you're more than 6 participants, it will go back into like group framing. But if you are with up to 6, you're able to see a sort of raster view of all those participants there. And so this is just some basic settings which I'm able to do when you hook the V family up to the Lens desktop app. And as I said, the most important one is the thing to upgrade it. So you got the ability to upgrade the device to the latest version. Also, you got polyperimeter here. And that means you can set up some of the perimeter settings, especially when you got rooms with a lot of glass. You're able to turn it on here and configure it. So you can set a specific environment for your V72. Let's say in the back you got glass, or on the sides you got glass, you got people walking by, or they're standing near the coffee machine. If you then use group framing, it could be that also the camera takes the participants who are standing outside and take them into account. And that could confuse, of course, the remote participants. So we don't want that, so you can also configure the polyperimeter. This is something within the Lens desktop. You can do this also in the web interface of the V72, and you could also configure that to polylens. So just to be aware of that. As I said, there are multiple ways to configure some of the settings. As I see it, the Lens desktop app got most of the basic settings here. Then we go to the tab Settings. So here we got also different options to configure on the device. Admin settings is protected by a password. That is the last 6 digits of the serial number. The rest you should be able to access, like for example general. You can turn on participant counter, or you can configure here the frequency of the camera, which should be on 50 Hz. Then we can configure here some audio settings, and that means some of the acoustic vents. So you can do some of the tweaking and tuning of the microphones. These are beamforming mics. So here you can really, for example, if you got a coffee machine on the side, you can really just make sure that the microphones are pointing to the table. Here you can set the sensitivity, so you can make sure how sensitive you want to set the microphone. This is something you really need to test in the room to make sure you got the best and the optimal setting there. Any other noise in the room than voice, like maybe you got an air conditioning or something. This is Noise Block AI V2. It's a really important feature because it's canceling it out in hardware. There's also a setting in the Teams Room PC, and that is noise suppression. It's important if you're gonna use the Noise Block AI V2, turn off the noise suppression in the Teams Room PC. Now, further in this video, I will show you where you can find this setting on the Teams Room PC and how you can turn it off on the Teams Pro Portal side. But I will discuss that a bit later. Then we go to some audio tuning. Well, the bass, I usually like to set the bass a little bit higher to +2, but that of course is your own preference. You can change the treble here a little bit, the volume control, which is most of the time done through the Teams or through the Zoom Room client. You can also see the display output, video output if you want to enable that. It will give you some additional information of the resolution, etc. So these are all the open settings as a user which I'm able to configure. If you go to the admin settings, what you immediately see is that it will prompt you for a password. So here you need to fill in the last 6 digits of the serial number. So let me do that. Alright, as soon as we've done that, we click on login, and you can find, by the way, on the back of the V72 or X72, you can find the serial number. It's good to know. Immediately you will see now some admin configuration settings which you don't want to offer to any users. So here you see your Wi-Fi settings. So I'm able to connect it also now to the Wi-Fi, and then I'm able to continue also through polylens. As you can see is that the A ports are disabled by default. There are 2 USB-A ports on the V72. which are out of the box not really needed. You could attach a third-party DSP if you want, but yeah, on the other hand, the V72 is really powerful by itself, so I think most of the time you don't need to add anything to it. Maybe some additional A2 mics, which could be handy at some point if you need some additional microphone power, but out of the box you don't need the USB-A port. Here we can change the password, which is also a possibility. Provisioning server, so here you can configure your PolyLens environment. So out of the box it will grab the environment from PolyLens to the DHCP option, and I will make sure in the comments, in the description below, I will make sure that we'll add some information, some references, how to find it and how to configure that. So in the provisioning mode, you can set it to auto. This will automatically grab the information from the DHCP, or you can go to manually. So here I can manually fill in all the information, or if you don't want it, you can also turn it off. By default it's set to auto, so whether it goes to Wi-Fi, it goes on the LAN, and we'll try to figure that out to DHCP server if that's pre-configured. Now what you also can do is you can export the configuration. So if you just have a couple of units and you've set the Wi-Fi, the tracking options, etc., and you're satisfied, then you can export that configuration, and on the other device you just go into the import and you can reuse those settings. Very handy and a quick way to configure the devices. Then we got the NTP server. NTP time, very important, especially if you're gonna work with certificate. With secure communications. So here below you also have all that information. You can create a self-signed or a signed certificate, and then you need to also add the NTP server. Very nice if you want to make secure communications there. Then you can restart the device. It will restart immediately. We have the option if something is not working properly, you can restore to defaults. That's also a possibility, and that's it. These are the admin settings which are protected under the default under the last 6 digits of the serial number. Then we go to the last one, which is support tab. Here we can go to the quick start guide, which is, by the way, now working really nice. It will bring you to the HP site. You get a lot of detailed information about product management, product dimensions, quick start guides, about the mounts of the device, so a hardware user guide. There's a lot of information available, so that makes sure it points here to the right guide. Same for the user guide. If you click on that, it will also point you to the user guides, device logs. If you need to log something for the support, you can download all that information if needed. Then we got the last one, which is the contact support. So if you are in contact with support, you need to provide anything about the model, serial number, or your software version, you're able to do that right here. So you got all the information, you got that available there. So the Lens desktop app is one of the options to use. Now let me hook it up and connect the LAN cable and show you also those options through the web interface. Here you go. So I hooked it up now to my network, and what you see after a while is that it will show the IP address. If it doesn't show the IP address, I recommend to jump to another device, go back to your V72, and that should at the end refresh it, and then you should be able to see it. Now, the other methods of configure the V72 is then going through the network. So let me open up a browser now and connect to this IP address. So connecting now to the IP address of the V72, we'll put in a username admin, again last 6 digits of the serial number. Right, done that, sign in, and here we go. So we signed it now to the V72. Again, this is through the local web interface of the device. Really nice. So here we can go to general settings, device settings. This is always recommended, so check. go to the Poly support site and check if there are updates available. Now, as you can see, updates are only done through the midnight. So that is important. We don't want any interruption during the day. But as you can see, it finds an update, but it will not just upgrade immediately, because we want to be able to use the device. Also, there is a camera inside the V72, similar with the X72, that is the E70 camera, and also that camera specifically will be able to get some updates through the Poly updates, as you see right here. Now we can go to System Settings. Here you'll find some information, for example, on the LED bar brightness. We can configure auto restart if you want to. If you want to restart the device maybe once a week just to clean up memory, etc., you're able to do that. We can connect remote control. So if you want to have a Bluetooth remote control, you're able to do that with the V72. That is this one, just pretty straightforward. Volume control, you got a mute button, hang up button, call button, just some basic controls. But in case you use it, for example, as a BYOD device, and somebody connects the device to his laptop, then others have at least the ability to also control the volume or mute, etc. So it's at least an option which is available. So here you can configure the remote control and pair it. Then we can go to the network settings, LAN network. It's connected over the LAN now. Here we can configure Wi-Fi, which is by default disabled, but you're also able to enable that through the web interface. We can configure some of the DNS settings, audio settings, monitors. Well, monitors is not something we're using because the V70 is used as a USB video bar, so we're only going to use camera, speaker and mic through that USB cable. So there's no really monitor connected, but this is inside the device. Audio, here we can do same tuning as you saw on the Lens desktop app. So here you can also set it to V2 or V1. By default it's set to V2. And here you can also configure, for example, some of the audio gain if needed to push the microphones. Shouldn't be needed, but here you can tweak some of those things. You can configure acoustic vents. If you want to enable USB audio, so this is for a third-party DSP, able to do that. You can enable auto mic switching, so in case you want to mix microphones with the A2 mics at the table, you can do that. So you can both use the mics in the bar and both use the A2 mics. So that is that auto mic switching. It's a similar feature which you had with the analog mic, which you already had as an option for the X72 and the V72. But now you will have similar availability also with the A2 mics. A nice one is also the speaker boost. So you could just really push the video bar speakers with speaker boost. Really nice. So if you got that really big room and you just don't hear the audio enough in the back of the room, it really makes sense to try out the volume boost. You can test a microphone. Here you got some things on the 3.5mm port which are not used on the V72. Here you can change some of the audio settings, and as you've seen, I set it to +2, and here you see the bass now in the web interface is also set to +2. I like to give it a little bit more bass, but of course that depends on every environment. Just good to try out some of those settings and see what works best in your environment. And even over time it's good to validate some of those settings and see, maybe the room is changed, maybe the layout, maybe the table. So it's always good to validate those audio settings. Video inputs, here you got similar things as the power frequency. Here you set the camera, which is the default built-in camera, the E70. Tracking options, so here you can set also the tracking options to frame group, similar as you've seen in the Lens desktop app, frame speaker or people framing. You can also set the perimeter, same thing. So here you got that same view as you've seen in the Lens desktop app. You can set the depth, you can set the width, and that, so at the different like parameters of the room to make sure that the tracking only happens within that specific setting. Then we got security for the certificates, etc. Here we can set provisioning environment on the servers. So here we can go to provisioning. We're able to enable provisioning here. We can go to cloud, and here you should be able to integrate the V72 directly by using a pin code. So we're now working locally on this device, so everything we do is just only for this device. But in practical and in production environments, you can imagine you will have multiple of these devices. Now, how do we integrate this with a lens, a PolyLens environment? First, creating a PolyLens account. You can do that. We have now also an EU tenant, so you're able to create a PolyLens account, and then you can integrate your device. So let me show you that very quickly so you got an idea how that looks like. So here you see, for example, a PolyLens account. So what you need to do is you go here to register device, you click on that, and immediately at the top you will see register device by pin QR code onboarding. So here I can register device. It's not a PC based system, so this is what you use when you have a lens room app. So in this case I just want to register device based on a pin. So you enter the pin which I showed you earlier in the web interface. We put the pin in there, we give the device a name, so Studio V72 Coffee Jan. We go to the site name, we still have a coffee site, then we select the room, for example coffee teams room, alright, and we register device. Now what immediately will happen is the device will register now to the PolyLens environment, all automatically. So let me go back to the web interface. Here you go. So after register the device, immediately what you will see, it says online. So it starts now to process and onboard into the PolyLens environment, and it should show up there at the end. So let me quickly go back now to the PolyLens environment. Alright, now we're back into PolyLens environment. Now let me go to the online devices. And immediately what you will see is that the V72 is starting to onboard now. And it registers now. First it registers with the pin, and then it will automatically make the transition to full onboarding. So just give it some time, and then you should be able to have access to all the settings. Now while the V72 is onboarding, let me show you some of the important settings. So what I usually do is I go to manage, and under policies you got a default policy when the device onboard. You go here under account, and here you will find a policy for device families. So you can set a policy on a device model, specifically for a specific model like the V72. But in this case I want to do it for the whole V family. So V12, V52. Now here you click on add. You search here for the V family and continue. And the first thing which I usually do is go to software update and disable software updates, because I don't want to onboard and directly update your devices. And the policy is now created. So if I go back and let me refresh, here you go. And now you see here a V family policy. If I click on that now, that the software update by default is disabled. Now let me go back to the V72. Let's see if it's now fully online. I said that could take a couple of minutes. Here you go. You see now more information is coming. It says that there is a software update available, but the software updates are disabled. So I have now control over the software updates, but I can go here now also into the settings. You'll find all the information here, audio, video settings, again, all the tracking settings. You can set the parameters, as I showed you earlier, but now from the PolyLens side, you can set the camera frequency, set that to 50 Hertz. Same thing, also on the audio side, you can configure all your settings here. Change that to noise block V2. So if you don't touch it, it will locally through the web interface, which I've set there, I will use it. But anything that I set here will be grayed out in the local web interface. So not be able to configure that locally anymore. So you got now all the settings available. Looking at software updates, as I said, completely disabled now. So you don't have to worry about that if the device comes online and that it starts updating itself. And we can see everything of the device. So if we can go here, you can see the device is online, the camera inside is operational, it's fully provisioned, we can see serial numbers, IP addresses, etc. Really nice. I can click on it and you see the information. I can restart it. So from any location I got the ability to restart it. I can factory reset if I wanted that, and then through PolyLens, through DHCP server, it could automatically onboard again. We can here set some tags. So if you want to set this as a JC video endpoint, that's easy to search for if needed. We can troubleshoot information. So if you need additional network information or information about the device, device status, you can find a lot of information here, which is of course remotely available from any location with PolyLens. And this is, I think, really powerful. So even if you got 3 or 4 of the V series, I think it's already very powerful to have everything in PolyLens available. So you always got the possibility not only to update, but to configure remote tracking settings, etc. Another use case is connecting your Studio V72 or V52 or V12, all Teams certified, Zoom certified, connect them to Teams Room PC or to the Zoom Room PC. It also should automatically be recognized as camera, speaker and mic. Alright, just for demo purposes, I've connected now a remote desktop client through the Teams Room PC to able to show you the controller. This is on the left side and on the right side you see the TV UI. Not that important because I just wanted to show you when you connect your V72 to your Teams Room PC, in this case a G9 Plus, you should be able to identify it very quickly. Mic. So now on the Teams PC, by default on the G9 Plus, you have the Lens Room application, and within that application there's an embedded camera control app, which I think is really nice. So before the meeting, you're able to change some camera settings. Now, where do we identify that camera control application? That is under Room Controls. So you should be able to see that on your Teams Room PC, at least if you got the HP G9 Plus or you installed the Lens Room app. Now, if I click on that, here you see all the different camera options of the Studio V72, which is recognized here. So you can set it to speaker track, group track, or set it to people framing. This is a different language, but just to show you what the different options are. You can change the naming, so I can go here to the settings. For example, it says now Studio V72, but maybe you want to use this as main front camera, which makes more sense, I think, for users. So we set it now to main front camera. So if you got multiple cameras, then you can also select other cameras if you want to. You can also turn the tracking off. So if you don't want tracking, you want to do a manual PTZ, so you can also do that. So you got some different options here to work that through. You can also create some presets. So it's pretty flexible in the setup. Now you can also change the camera settings during a meeting. So let me show that, because that will give you also some additional options. On the Teams Room side, next to the camera option, you will see a very small drop-down menu. If you click that, it will bring you to all the options inside the meeting. So we got active speaker, we got group framing, and we got IntelliFrame, which is a sort of people framing on the Poly side. So raster all the participants in the meeting room. Only IntelliFrame is the one from Microsoft, and it can also do some intelligent things like face recognition and voice recognition in the meeting room. But before you're able to use all those options, don't forget that you need to get a voice and a face profile. You need to onboard yourself to your Teams application because you need to allow the system to be able to use that information. So there's a lot of things about that. It's also mentioned here left at the top if you're able to use that. So you can change that. Another option to change camera setting is by going here to the three dots and go to room controls. So if you want to disable the tracking here, that's also a possibility. Or if you want to change cameras, then you can also use the camera control app. Now, this is a very nice one to know. So the V72 is identified, works, but you want to manage it, and maybe you want room controls. Because if you want room controls, then you must disable the camera control because you can only have one slot available on Teams Room windows. So then you need to disable the camera controls on the Lens Room application to make sure it's freed up for the Extron or for the Crestron integration. And on the other side, you want to manage it. So to do that, you need to go into the administration settings. So you go to the settings, you go here underneath into the settings of Windows. To show you that, we go to the Windows environment. You go. All right, so we're now in the Windows environment of your Teams Room application. Here you see a complete Windows setup here. Now we go here to settings, we go to the Lens Room app, and here you're also able to see if it is onboarded to Lens. So if this is a new PC, you should be able to see onboard device with PIN. If I click on that, it should be auto-generating, as you can see, a PIN code to onboard. Similar as I've showed you with the video bar. That's really, really easy. Now, the other thing is, if you want to use this device with an Extron or Crestron control, then you need to go here to that wheel on the left top. You go to settings. Same thing you can do, by the way, through PolyLens, which I will show you. And here you can disable camera control. So as soon as I disable that, it won't show up on the Teams UI. So let me show you that. Alright, so we quickly went back into the end user interface, and what you see is we don't see any camera control anymore. And so now you can safely install your Extron application or your Crestron application. You're able to use it. So just good to know that these options are there. And the next thing is, of course, to do those same things for PolyLens, because we got customers with hundreds of these devices. And so this is just locally to show you where you can find those things. But of course, at the end, you want to have this centrally available where you can configure all those things. So now let me get back into the Windows interface. Here we go. We're now back into the Windows interface, and here you see that it prompts me for a PIN code. We do now exact the same thing, so we copy this one and let's go now into the Lens environment to onboard this Lens Room application. Alright, back into the PolyLens environment again. We go to manage, we go to register device. Again, we go to register a single device. You could also do a mass deployment here, but I can show you that in a later video. We click now here, the device is a PC-based system. Don't forget that, because otherwise it won't onboard correctly. We put in the pin there, we give the room a name, Teams Room PC Coffee Tech, we say register. Now let's look back at the PC. Alright, back to the Teams Room PC. As you can see, it has been successfully been onboarded. Really nice. So it's really straightforward to onboard your devices into PolyLens. It gives you so much advantages to remotely control your devices. So in this case, through the PolyLens Room app, but as you've seen, you can also directly integrate your V series with PolyLens using the Wi-Fi or the LAN. And so multiple options are available. Now back to PolyLens to see if the Teams Room PC has become online. Let's go to the inventory. What I always do, status, go to the online devices, and immediately you see here the Teams Room PC and you see the lens room application. The V72, we already had that onboarded, also had through the network connected there, so that should be there. Now, if I click now on the conference PC, now you can dive deeper. You can see the software version of the lens room app, find out the IP addresses, etc. if needed for support. All the way below you can find out your connected devices to the PC. And you see now also the V72 is now connected to the Teams room PC. So it's all connected to each other, really nice. And then you can click, for example, on the V72. I can go deeper. Maybe you want to change some camera settings, so I can go to the video settings, change it, for example, to frame speaker or frame group. Another setting combined with the video framing setting is polyperimeter. So being able to set a certain range of the camera and not picking up people which are standing outside the glass. Well, you can also do that centrally here through polyperimeter. So you can enable that. You can set the metric into meters. And now you can provide all the parameters to be able to set that to make sure that the camera is only focused on the table when tracking the participants in the room. Really nice. So this is also something which you centrally can manage. One very important one, particularly with the audio, is the Noise Block AI V2. I recommend to use this as a noise blocking setting. So you can disable it if you don't want to use it. You can use Noise Block AI version 1 and you can use it Noise Block AI version 2. So Noise Block AI version 2 has some echo cancellation techniques in there, so it will make sure that if the acoustics in the room is challenging, it will also do some noise reverberation there, including blocking anything like coffee machines or anything outside voice, to be able to block that. So this is built into the hardware of the V series, similar as you know from the X series. It is also built into the V series. Now, what is very important is to make sure if you're gonna use Noise Block AI V2 that it is turned off in the Teams room PC settings itself. So let me show you that there. Alright, now we're back at the Teams room PC. So what I wanted to show you quickly, where can you find, if you hook up the V series, V12, V52, V72, where can you find the noise block setting on your Teams room PC? Well, I think the best way is to just set up a meeting and then you're able to double check that. So let me set up a meeting now. And as soon as you got the meeting going, under the three dots, so here underneath the bar, under the three dots, you click on that, you see here a setting, audio settings, right underneath. I click on that. And now you can see if noise suppression is turned on by default. If you see this toggled on, that means that noise suppression is turned on. In this case, I would recommend not to use Noise Block AI V2 and noise suppression here on the Team PC, which could lead to very low audio in the room. So I would recommend to turn it off. Well, this is like a one time, because what you will see if this is set up the next meeting, this will be turned on again. So the best thing is to go to Teams Pro portal, and there you can make the setting permanent to turn it off. So let me quickly show you that. Here we go, the Teams Room Pro portal. So here you can manage your Teams room PCs. So where you need to go is you go to Rooms, you go to your Teams room PC, in this case MTRoW, coffee. Alright, then we go to the second tab here, Settings. Then we go to Peripherals. Here you can see that the V72 is a microphone, speaker, you can set default volume, etc. But also underneath, completely underneath, you will find the Enable Noise Suppression. So if you don't want to use that, you click on Disable, you click on Apply Setting. So you can apply it now or during maintenance hours. No, I want to apply it now, submit, and now the setting will be applied to your Teams room PC. So let me show you that. Alright, back at the Teams room PC, just to show you that the setting which I just enforced through the Teams Pro portal had to turn the noise suppression off, just to show you that that has been pushed down. Let me set up a meeting. Now, as soon as the meeting is started, you go to the three dots and then all below the audio settings, click on that, and as you can see now, the noise suppression by default is turned off. In summary, don't use noise suppression in the Teams room PC combined with the V series using Noise Block AI V2, because these two are really gonna fight for the noise suppression, and then this could lead to a low audio in the meeting room itself. What I recommend is to use the Noise Block AI, which by default turned on in the V series, to use that. It's doing it in the hardware and not only blocking out noise, but it's also making sure that if there is some reverberation in the room, it also takes it away. So there's really some optimization being done in the V series to make sure that the pickup and the audio is as clear as possible. Now, if you want to use noise suppression on Teams room PC, that is also of course a possibility, but then make sure you turn it off in the V series, because again, otherwise it could lead to audio issues in the meeting room. The other thing is the Lens Room application which runs, so that has a separate entry which you see right here, which is called the Microsoft Teams Room app, the Lens Room app. So here I'm able to go to settings, I can go to application, and the camera control which I showed you earlier is also here. So if you want to enable it, you can do that, you can apply that, and now the camera control button should be available again on the Teams Room UI. So these are similar things you can do. Same with the Lens Room app software. So here you can make sure that you install the latest version of your Teams on your Teams Room PC, or can even be a Zoom Room PC. So that is, I think, really good to know. Now, on the other hand, if you need to do a reboot of your Teams Room PC, you can also do that very quickly. So you see at the top also some settings, so you can factory reset your Lens Room application if you want. So it will make sure that it is reset again. So then you need to re-onboard it again with the pin, or you can restart the PC. That's like almost immediately. So if you want to give it a quick reboot because something strange happened to the PC, or you got an important meeting, you gotta make sure that it's all working, and you can always restart very quickly here. So just very easy to show you the different devices centrally managed through PolyLens. And that's it, the Studio V72 setup and installation. Hopefully you enjoyed it and you got some confidence now to go into the field and install the Studio V72. As I've showed you, get at least the Lens desktop application on your PC, then you're able to install it quickly, do some basic settings, etc. The next step is connecting it to your Teams Room PC or your Zoom Room PC. You can install the Lens Room application. You can integrate it with PolyLens, or you can directly integrate the bar. Maybe if you got a BYOD scenario or something, you directly want to integrate the bar through Wi-Fi or to LAN, because there's always updates on the AI engine, the noise block engine, so you gotta make sure you keep that all compatible with any software you're using also on your laptop. Of course, I will make sure that everything I talked about, installation, setup, etc., that I will put the links under the video. I'm gonna make sure that there are chapters so you're easy to quickly browse to the different parts and pieces. Again, hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to see you back in the next video.
Coffee tech break.